Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Shut the Front Door podcast. This is the Real Talk About Real Estate podcast brought to you by Harvey, Goodman, Realtor. And I am Johnny Kazemka. With me, as always, Scott Connors.
Hey, Johnny. How are we doing today?
Doing very good. Very good. So, hey, doing another interesting topic podcast this morning about advice and why we should be more willing to listen to other people. In fact, we just had a little bit of a debate of if you're reading the the comment section, if you're reading the description. I just got the Alanis Morissette quote wrong, and I had to be taken to school here just not even more than 5 minutes ago. So,
well, listen, back in the late 90s, I was not only a pretty big fan of Alanis Morissette, but the band I was in played a lot of Alanis Morissette. I think at one point we were playing half of her debut album in a typical night. So, yeah, I can only claim expertise on a few things.
And that's one of them.
Alanis Morissette lyrics is probably one of them that I unfortunately still have.
And as we're discussing what we're going to be talking about this morning, that manifests itself in my own very Mandela effect. But anyways, good morning, everyone. We are now live: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch, TikTok, all these any social media. This is an interactive podcast. Any comment, any like, share, follow should be on the screen, and we'll do our best to answer your comments in real time. But anyways, you have a interesting topic again for us this morning. So, advisement. What is our role and what happens when that is not exactly, I don't know, when clients choose to not follow some of the advice that we give?
Yeah, so let's start with one of our pet peeves is when we get blamed because our clients do something that maybe someone doesn't like. And that happens from other agents. I just heard that in a meeting yesterday where the agent said, well, when I see this happen, I always think, boy, this agent isn't doing their job.
Right.
When the truth is the agent is doing their job, they're following their seller's instructions. Now, their seller's instructions might be terrible, but you can't blame the agent. We also get it from the general public where, why are these agents pricing these houses so high? We've talked about this on previous podcasts where we don't set prices at all. We give advice to sellers, and they take that advice or they don't. But our job is to follow their legal instructions. So the way this manifests itself is we advise a client, hey, we think you should list your house at $199.9. We think that's the right price. We think it'll sell quickly. And they say, you know what? No, we want to list it at $249.9 because, well, you can always come down.
Right, and we did a podcast on this specifically. Can you undervalue your home? And that's up on Spotify right now. But right, and so you don't always have to follow the advice that we give. But when people choose not to and things don't work out, it's also we wear the target on the back as if the reason it didn't work was our own doing, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that hurts us specifically because our job ultimately is to get the best outcome we can for our clients. That's what it comes down to, and the client defines that outcome. So if it's a seller, the outcome may be I need to sell as quickly as I can. Or the outcome may be, I need to get as much money as I can. Those are two different outcomes, right? And our advice is going to change based on what their goal is.
Right. And Denny, thank you for the like. In value, we said it 100 times. It's not equated to just dollars and cents. The end goal is, in my opinion, more valuable than the money itself. Now, sometimes money is the prerequisite. If you're selling the house to buy another house and you need this money to go towards it, you have to make a specific amount. But that is a goal. If you said to me, I want to relocate and I'm taking a new position, cross country, and I have to have it by this deadline, well, hey, the monetary value is something to consider. But you might forego a life opportunity by not making it happen within a specific this deadline, this time frame. So we always have to sit down and talk about these things. And it's that, again, Alanis Morissette, that advice that you just didn't take.
It's the good advice you just didn't take.
Right.
That was our debate about the song lyric as we were preparing the podcast. And so what happens is client comes to us and says, okay, this is what we want to happen. We want to, for example, sell it as quickly as possible. All right. But then they come at us and say, but we don't want to put a sign in the yard for various reasons, or we want to price it a little bit higher, or we want to require 48 hours notice for a showing. We want the listing agent to be at all showings. They could throw all these other conditions on, which are all working against their specific goal.
Right.
And so we give the advice, say, look, if you want to sell this as quickly as possible, we know how to do that.
Right.
Here's what you do, X, Y, Z. These are the steps based on our experience and our expertise. And if you follow this advice, you're most likely to get the outcome you want. Well, then they don't follow the advice, and they end up not getting the outcome they want, and then they blame us because, why isn't anybody coming to see our house? Well, maybe it's because you wouldn't let me take any pictures of the inside.
Right.
Or maybe it's because we priced it too high. Or maybe it's because you insisted that we list it as, X number of bedrooms when it's really not that many bedrooms.
I insist on listing it as is.
Listing as is a great example of that. My advice will always be don't ever list it as is. Because that's not going to get you the outcome you want in virtually every case.
Well, it won't get you the outcome, but every house we've ever sold is as is.
Right. Correct. What they intend to say, that's a good example of something where the seller has an intention of, we don't want to do any repairs. And we think if we say as is, that means we don't have to do any repairs. And that's not how it works. What it means when you say as is, that means you're going to get low offers. And you still may have to do repairs.
Well, we said it before, the rational thought, right? When you set this predisposition to a buyer that says we're selling it as is, you're basically saying that we believe there may be problems and we're just not willing to fix them. That's not the case. You're just basically saying if a buyer has any issue during the building inspection or appraisal or whatever, we just don't want to fix them. Completely different topic. Right?
Exactly right. Same thing applies to buyers, by the way. We'll have a buyer who has seen 15 homes and they've told you exactly what they want. And then you find the one that's just absolutely perfect for them. It just hit the market yesterday. We know there were 12 showings in the last 48 hours, and they want to offer 20% off the asking price. And our advice is going to be, look, that's not going to get you this house. And the outcome you came to me with is, I want to buy a house that's just like this. It's in your budget. It checks all the boxes. And then they don't follow our advice, and then they don't get the house that they wanted. They don't get the outcome that they came for. And so, it's not that our advice is always correct. It certainly isn't, right? We learn something new in this business every day. And a lot of times we're trying to predict the future, right? We're trying to say, if we do this, we think this is what's going to happen.
Well, just from being in the trenches and seeing things. So the advice, the typical walk of, hey, let's get pre-qualified. Well, I don't want to get pre-qualified before I see a house, right? We have these same conversations and go over these things so readily often that, I always liken the joke that when you go to a doctor, it's not, the doctor's not doing work, it's their practice, right? Or legal practice.
Right.
Because every person, every case, every buyer that we work with, every seller, they're all new, right? They're all different for their own different reasons. So you can call what we do in a way practice, but we have a very, very set skill set that we've developed over years of doing, tons of business. We know what works. At least, when you apply it to a broad spectrum here. So, again, you don't have to follow our advice, but when things typically don't work out and it's because you went in a different direction, and this happens all the time, it's not just our advice. What about family members, right? When we have building inspections, we always get the father-in-law or the uncle or...
It's blown up today. Someone's following our advice, and we say, call us today.
Call us today. But what happens is, the father-in-law or uncle or family member will come in during a building inspection, and they will just rip the house to shreds. Or, oh, man, back when I bought my house in the 70s, I would never pay this price for this house. They're so disconnected from the market and what it's been doing lately that sometimes that advice to protect the interest of a loved one is more damaging than just going with someone who is unbiased, a mutual third party.
Yeah, and that's tough. We hate when that happens. And again, people, I think, sometimes come into a transaction not necessarily trusting the agent. It's part of our job to earn that trust, and we try to do that right up front. But then sometimes you have a client, as you're describing, where you've built that trust over a matter of days or weeks or months of working together. But then their cousin-in-law's uncle, who used to be a contractor, has never met us. They see us as that creepy salesperson who's trying to force my nephew to buy this house, and they blow up the deal, which really ends up not getting them the outcome they want, which can be frustrating.
Right.
I'll give you another example of this we see all the time, and it's got to do with lenders. Where somebody comes to us and they've been pre-approved by an out-of-town lender who we've had some bad experiences with. We shared that experience, and I've taken to say to clients that, hey, if you, the first thing I'll say is, if you never talk to me again, this is usually in a first consultation call, if you never talk to me again, take this piece of advice, get a local lender.
Right.
But then further on, when we're talking about it further and I'm explaining why and what can go wrong, I'll say to them, by the time you realize I was right, it's going to be too late, and you're going to wish you would have taken my advice.
It happens all the time.
It happens all the time. And I think maybe the takeaway here is that you come to us with what your desired outcome is. And as a buyer, that could be any number of things. As a seller, it could be any number of things. We take that to heart, and then we use every tool we have to put you in the best possible position to get that outcome. And, again, we're not always right, but I think we're right more than we're not.
Well, and I don't know that we have to be. Same thing with doctors or attorneys or anything
Sure.
else. I can appreciate the people that give me the undeserving high praise that think that I have such influential prowess into the market that I can just go and get you 50,000 above asking, or that I have the ways to manipulate someone's loved family member, that I'm just going to, like you had said, my nephew is going to be buying this house, as if I was so persuasive. All right. It's just not the case. But I don't think that we have to be right 100% of the time. We have to be able to give advice that says, during these scenarios, over a decade's worth of being in the largest brokerage in the Ohio Valley and seeing everything that we could possibly have seen thus far, this is what I would do in this scenario.
Yeah.
Right. So, if I told you at a blackjack table, hey, do this and you're going to win 80% of the time, you're still going to walk away with a profit. You're still going to walk away. Right. You're going to bankrupt the casino. So, again, it's not. This is not an industry where the customer is always right. Right. This is not Burger King. This is not have it your way. You get to make the final decisions, but we are here to really help and make sure that you are on track when you are making these life-changing decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Johnny, just in some other news, we had a great event last week at the Highlands.
Yes, we did.
What was called the Highlands Sports Complex Spooktacular.
Spooktacular.
Absolutely blew it out of the water. How's the giveaway going for the Game Boy?
Well, if you can see, and depending on which stream you're watching, but we have a YouTube sub-goal counter. We are now at 101. We were shooting for 125. We still have until December 2nd. So we started with 60. We have, I want to say, 40 or so entries for this, but we are, follow us on Facebook and you'll see a custom arcade station in the likeness of a 4-foot-tall Game Boy that has every retro game you could possibly imagine. It's an emulation station. It is at the end of the day, just you can use it for Netflix or Pandora.
I'm going to tell you, I got to play with this thing a little bit. This Spectacular. It was a ball.
Right,
I threw out to Johnny. I challenged him to pull up RC Pro-Am from the original Nintendo system, and he had it in about 30 seconds. And it turned out that we were playing together. Because the controls were the way the thing is set up, if you don't have a handheld controller, which is what it's designed for, we were using the big giant light up buttons. And so the two of us kind of reminded me of Tom Hanks and Big when they were playing the piano. You're working one side, I'm working the other, but we had an absolute ball.
And we finished first.
It absolutely finished first by the tiniest margin. But it was fantastic, and there were so many kids that came through there. It was amazing. It was like a magnet. They see that Game Boy sitting there, and they knew exactly what to do. They run over to it, they start hitting buttons, and they're playing video games.
Yep.
So very, very cool thing. If you haven't signed up yet, subscribe to YouTube channel. We can send you a link on how to enter the contest. Someone's going to be very, very happy they won this thing. It is super cool.
Yeah, well, again, high praise. But
well-deserved high praise.
But, also follow us on Spotify. That is what this whole giveaway is for, is to celebrate the launch of our podcast there.
Yep.
And, as always, we'll be back next week. Scott, do you have any other words or wisdom that we should impart with?
Nope. Good to see everyone.
All right, thanks, guys.
Take care.
See you next week.